As a society, we haven't been passing our history on. We don't teach history very well. We talk about, as Estella says, we talk about destroying things. You don't destroy history, you tell it. You tell it all and you tell it well.
I cannot forget, this man had thick eyebrows. And every time I think about it today, I think about those eyebrows. He sat at the end of that table and told us that we would never enroll in that school. School is not set up for that. We're just not set up for it now.
So they asked the school board down there to provide them transportation and one or two other things they wanted to do at the 8th grade school that they did maintain down there in Fort Black. And the school board wouldn't do any of it. So they came to me, and I ended up filing suit.
The next day, man, everything, well, I'm not gonna use the word that broke loose. They say H broke loose in Mansfield. That's when you read about the dummies, the effigies hanging up on the street, hanging on the school board.
We've been trying to get our Juneteenth before the public, and I mean the national public, not just Fort Worth, and trying to get people to understand that Juneteenth is just not a Texas thing.
I thought it was past time for us to have legal representation in the judiciary with the number of blacks that were being tried through the court system. It was just important to me that we had someone there who looked like us.
You just mentioned Mr. Lewis, and we're here today on the day that John Lewis is being funeralized and will be buried.
Yep.
You actually worked for him.
Yes. We were talking one day about what was he concerned about when he was walking across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. He said, I was scared. And he said, when we got to the crest of that bridge, he said, I said to the Lord, I said, okay, Lord, if you think this is my time to go, I'm willing. And I said, but you could have lost your life, and you nearly did. And he said, I know. He says, but I had to set that example. Somebody had to stand up and say and do and be that example. And I said, okay. He said, can you do that? I said, no. And he says, but you're learning. If you didn't fight back when that person spat on you in that march, it's in you. You've got to let it come out, and you've got to embrace it.
When I think about a quilt, I can remember my grandmother quilting. Every piece had a meaning. You'd cut them out, they had such a unique shape to it, but it all had to blend together. But they would be stacked. Those pieces would be stacked. They would be placed where you could kind of see them laid out. And that's what I think about this project. I think of every individual who has sat here as being a part of that quilt that had uniqueness, but when you put it all together, just a portrait of beauty.
This project that we're working on now, interviewing people who've been part of Fort Worth's history, including the civil rights movement.
Absolutely.
NAACP came up with this idea for what?
Bob Ray, I really am so grateful that this project is taking place. It's long overdue. I'm grateful for those who had the brainchild to put it in place, because we have lost so many of our legendary individuals who was a part of this history. But for those who have been left, who we've had a chance to have sit before you, and you be able to put it in context so that someone will know once they leave this side and end up on the other side, there's some history we'll receive.
So what do you expect to become of this work?
This is a beginning. I look forward to being able to say it's placed in libraries, it's placed in areas to where when you want to know about history of civil rights, things that occurred, things that happened, they can pull this piece of work and look at it and be able to take pride in it.
I overheard a conversation many times with Bob Ray, who's a journalist, my brother, who is a writer and author of the book, The Garden of Eden, tell these stories. You've got to pass this history down. It's got to be shared. It needs to be included in schools, okay? Should be part of the curriculum. 1 month out of a year doesn't cut it, because African American history is American history. It's part of the history. Without us, there would be no American history. So we're all in this thing together. Here we are again, hoping that we can show the importance of storytelling. Most of the time we thought it was false, but when you read it, when other people corroborate the stories, they're true. But when you write them down, when you share it, put it in book form, put it in docu-series form, the message will get there. And the sooner, the better.